Welcome back, Cat 31 CATIA class. We're going to go over problem 4-4. So we're going to go over this housing, most likely some type of electric housing box, it appears. All right, so let me give you a preview, or let me tell you the approach we're going to take on this housing. We're first going to create a sketch, rectangular sketch for the main body. And then we're going to bring in the ribs, these 3 ribs. That'll be our second operation, the 3 ribs. And our third operation will be to create these shafts. And then our fourth operation will be to create holes in the shafts. And finally, we'll do the tabs on the outside with the holes. All right, so this is done in inches. Once again, we're going to start with a simple rectangular sketch. And we're going to, actually before we make the ribs, we're going to have to hollow the inside. So we're going to use shell. All right, so let's start with the box. All right, so we're going to make a box 13.52 by 750. All right, so let's go ahead and start part design. Okay, so we'll call this problem 4-4. Okay, so by giving it a name, it'll place it here at the top of the tree. You can always right-click Properties, go to Product tab and give it a new name or replace the name. All right. So let's create a sketch. And this time I'm going to create the sketch on the XY plane. Okay, so XY plane. But let's first go to Tools Options. Make sure we are in the correct units. Tools Options. Click on General, Parameters and Measure, Units, Length, and Inches. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to create my sketch on the XY plane. Now this part is actually not exactly symmetrical. Okay, but I'm going to draw my first sketch symmetrical to the origin. So let's learn something new. So we can go with the rectangle command, or we can go with, if you go to the drop down, we can go with centered rectangle command. So we're going to pick the origin as the center. Centered rectangle. So I'm going to pick the origin 0, 0. Notice the filled circle. Let us know we're picking the origin. Click. And now it creates a symmetrical rectangle about that origin. Click to position and click in space to deselect. Notice this is symmetry. So this vertical and this vertical are symmetrical with respect to the origin. So if I pull on this, notice they always stay symmetrical to the origin. Same thing with the horizontals. So that's that symbol right there. Tells us that this vertical are symmetrical about the origin point. Click in space to deselect. Okay, so let's throw in some dimensions. So we have 1352 for the length and 750 for the height or depth. Okay, so let's give this a dimension. We can just pick the line if we want. Click. So this is 13.52. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. Dimensional constraint. I'll just pick the line. Double click. And this is 7.50. Okay. All right. So we can always do a zoom fit. Right, if your sketch goes out, for some reason your sketch ends up outside of your, so I'm holding onto the wheel to pan. If you lose your sketch, you can always do a zoom fit by clicking this yellow icon. All right, so let's go ahead and do a tool sketch analysis. We should be good. Everything's closed. Yep. Close this and exit. All right, so I'm going to do a pad, and I'll do it in, I'm going to do it in one direction. I'll go vertical. Okay, so this has a height of 3, so there's the 3 inches in height. Okay, so let's do a pad. That sketch, 3 inches. And okay, there it is. Click and space to deselect. Let's go back. All right, so we have the box, but now we need to shell the inside. So we're going to use the shell command. And I want you to notice that the wall thicknesses are 0.50. So 0.50, 4x tells us that there are 4 walls with a thickness of 0.50. And it also happens that the bottom thickness at the base we have 0.50. Okay, so it's 0.50 thickness for the vertical walls and also the wall at the base. Okay, so I'm going to take advantage of that and use the shell command, and we're going to use 0.50 as the thickness. Okay, so here's the shell command. If you don't see shell command, you can always go to insert, dress up features, and here's the shell command. Okay, so we're going to do a shell, and we're going to use 0.50. So I'm going to type in 0.50 for the inside thickness, and then we're going to keep everything except the top surface. So we're going to remove the top surface. We're going to keep all the other surfaces. It's just the top we're going to remove. I'm going to hit OK. Notice it shells it. Okay, so this keeps a constant thickness all the way around of 0.50, and we chose to remove the top surface. All right, so let's go on to the next step. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do these 3 ribs, and we're going to do it all in one shot, but we're going to sketch from the bottom. So I'm actually going to put the sketch on the bottom of the block. And the reason is because I don't want to do math. Notice that the ribs inside, the 3 ribs, are not at the same height as the box. They're actually shorter. And the size or the height of that, here it is in this detail. So the ribs, with respect to the bottom, has a height of 2 inches. So the 3x tells us that there are 3 ribs. 1, 2, 3. And from the base, we're going to extrude up 2 inches. Okay, so that's the reason I'm going to sketch at the base, so I can then extrude 2 inches. And if you're wondering, where is this section AA coming from? This section AA, look for AA. And here it is, A. So they're cutting through the center. And actually this detail doesn't show the entire section view. It only shows a partial. We can tell by these cutout lines. So what we're seeing in that section AA, it's cutting right down the center, and that's to give us the height of this rib, which happens to have the same height for all 3. So it doesn't go all the way across as indicated. It actually stops here. So it starts cutting through and it stops here. And it has a height of 2. Now another dimension we need for the ribs is this 0.50. Okay, so the ribs have a thickness, all 3 of them, 3x of 0.50. Okay, so what I'm going to do is at the base, I'm going to draw a rectangle with a thickness of 0.50. Okay, so let's go back. So let me flip it over, and I'm going to put a sketch at the base, or I can pick the bottom plane. They happen to be coplanar. Either way is fine. Before I do, let me give this some color. Right click properties, graphic. If you don't like any of the color choices, you can always go to more colors. I'm going to give it a purplish color, darkish color. Okay, give it any color you want if you choose to add color. Hit OK. Okay, there it is. Okay, so on the base, I'm going to create my sketch. Okay, even though we're sketching on the base, I want to flip it over 180. So I'm going to click the normal command, flip it over. There it is, 180. The reason is because I want to use the edges to control the length of the ribs. Okay, so I'm going to do just like I did earlier. I'm going to use the centered rectangle. Okay, so go to rectangle, go to centered rectangle. I'm going to pick the center, click, and I'm going to click all the way to the edge. I'm trying to pick the edge, but it doesn't let me. Okay, so let me just click it anywhere. Click in space to deselect. Okay, so I'm going to hold on to the control key, select this vertical, and select this edge. Okay, then I'm going to give it a coincidence constraint. Notice now it locks it in place horizontally. Okay, so I can no longer pull on this and make it go horizontal, but we're still have to. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Let me hit undo, undo, undo. Somehow it undid my rectangle. Undo a few times. There it is. All right, so I moved so fast that it crossed things and it messed up my sketch. That's okay. So I'm going to add a dimension of 0.50. So that's the thickness. Let me click in space. Give it a thickness of 0.50. And okay. Now, you don't have to do this, but I just want to show you when I rotate this that the sketch is at the base. It's at the bottom, right? I can flip it 180. Flip it again. Okay, let's do a tool sketch analysis before we exit the sketch. Okay, it's closed. We're good. And we can exit. Okay, so now we're going to do a pad with that height shown in section AA of 2 inches. Okay, so we're going to extrude up 2 inches, and that'll give us the rib going all the way across. Okay, so let me rotate it slightly. I'm going to do a pad. It's going in the wrong direction, so I'm going to hit the reverse button, reverse, and I'm going to type in 2. So left mouse click, highlight the text to overwrite it, type in 2. Okay. Click in space to deselect. So there's our rib. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw the shafts. Okay, so let's go back to the drawing. All right. Now I want you to notice that the shafts have the same height as the box. All right, so if we want, we can actually sketch on this surface, or we can sketch at the bottom and pad up to this surface, or vice versa. Okay, so I'm going to make, once again, the sketch at the base of the shafts. And I believe they're not symmetrical, or it doesn't appear to be symmetrical. Okay, so I'm going to have to use these dimensions. Okay, so let's go back. So we're going to create a third sketch. So let me open this up. So we're going to create a third sketch on the base. Sketch. All right, so we're going to add 2 circles. So let's add our circle. Notice how it wants to attach itself to the horizontal, and that's what I want. I think that's what I want. Let me double check, make sure it's centered. Yep, it is centered. Ooh, actually it's not centered. It's at 374. So this drawing was intentionally not symmetrical to make it tough on us, which is fine. So it's not centered. So 374 from the edge. If it was centered, this would be 375, half of 750. So whoever created this intentionally turned it into a challenge, I think just for fun. Okay, so I'm not going to place the circle on the horizontal. Let me place it out here. Okay, so now I'm going to put a dimension from the edge to the center. So let me click in space first. Dimension from the edge to the center of 374. So we actually have to go back and fix this sketch on pad 2 because it's not centered also with the first sketch of the rectangle. So we're going to have to go back and fix that. All right, so let me double click on this one and change it to 3.74. Okay. Now I'm going to draw a line from this center make it a construction element. Click in space. So if I zoom in, you can tell that that horizontal I just created is not on top of the horizontal axis. Notice they're not on top of each other. Let me zoom out. Let's draw our next circle. Now we don't want this to be a construction element, so let's turn it to a solid. Click in space to deselect. All right, so let's throw in some dimensions from the side. Okay, so we have 356 for the first hole, 356. Make sure it's the center. Change it to 356. Okay. All right, now we got to do the center for the other one. Center to edge. That's 994, 994, 9.94. So dimensional constraint from the edge, center, and 9.94. Okay. Okay, and we're missing diameters. Let's go back. Okay, so the diameter is 2.25. So 2x tells us that there are two circles with a diameter of 2.25. Okay, so let's add a dimensional constraint. Make sure it's diameter and 2.25 and okay. Then we can select both circles, hold on to the control key to make them equal to each other. Then go to dimensional relationships, make them equal. There they are. They're both equal in diameter and okay. All right, so now we can exit. Okay, so notice our sketch is at the base. And we're going to pad up to this top surface. Okay, so let's do a pad of sketch 3. Notice it tucks sketch 3 in. And we're going to pad up to plane or up to surface. Either one will work because the surface is flat, planar. So we can say up to surface and we can click this surface. Oh, doesn't like it. Okay. Didn't like it. Okay, maybe if we pick planar, up to planar surface. There it is. It does like it this time. And preview. There it is. And okay. Click in space to deselect. So, hey, we've already gotten pretty far. Okay, so I have to go back and fix sketch number 2 for the ribs, which is not centered, right? If it was centered, this would read 375, which is half of 750, but it doesn't. It's 374. So I need to go in and fix that. So let's go back. If you leave it the way it is, I'm okay with it. Okay, so if you want to leave it centered, I'm okay with it. I'm going to go in and fix it. Sketch 2. Okay, so I'm going to have to delete some of my symmetry constraints. So let me turn off the lights. just so I can see them better. Okay, so I'm gonna have to delete. I don't have to delete the outer ones, but I do have to delete the symmetry between these two horizontals and the origin. Okay, so I need to delete that set. And just to show you, so it's equidistant, same as symmetry. So I'm going to delete this. And notice now this is free to move. Okay, so how do we fix that? Okay, so let me move this upward. Okay, so I'm going to add a construction line, midpoint to midpoint. Okay, so I'm going to create a line, midpoint. Notice the filled circle. I can always right click on the line and say pick midpoint to be safe. Do the same thing on this one. Right click on this line and pick midpoint. Click and space to deselect. Now I want this to be a construction line, so I need to select it and turn it into a construction line. Click and space, and there it is. All right, so now let's turn the background back on. Okay, so the reason for that construction line is to put that dimension of 374. Okay, so let's put a dimensional constraint from this edge to this construction line. And we're going to change it to 3.74. And okay. Hey, it looks centered, but it actually isn't. If we zoom in, we can see that that center line doesn't lie on top of the horizontal. Okay, so let's zoom out. Now the edges don't matter because they're going to blend in with the site anyway. It was just the vertical location that's not centered, which is at 374 with respect to the edge. Okay, let's do a tool sketch analysis. Make sure everything looks good. Yep, everything looks good. Close and exit. Okay, so now it's fixed. Okay, the next thing we're going to do are the holes on the shaft. Okay, so the holes, we have hole diameters of 180. Okay, so 180 for the hole. Same thing for the other one, 180, 1.80. All right, so I'm going to pre-select the edge so it centers the hole. Okay, so make sure you select the edge. Notice it's red, letting me know I picked the edge. Click on Hole Command. So even if I don't click at the center, let's say I click away from the center, it'll center it for me. Notice it centers it. Okay, and make sure we have a simple hole. If we go to type, make sure it's simple and not counterboard. Counterboard will do double holes, right? We want it to be simple. Let's go back to the extension tab. And I already forgot the diameter, 1.80. So our diameter is 1.80. Preview. Now notice it does a V shape because if you were to use a drill, if you were taking a 2x4 and drilled a hole, the tip of the drill bit is conic in shape. If you don't want it to be a V shape, conic in shape, you can always say flat. Preview, right? But because of the shape of the drills, we go with a V bottom, right? You can always change the angle. But in our case, we're going to go all the way through. So we're going to go up to last. And preview, and notice it goes all the way through. Hit OK. So it went all the way through. So we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Let me click in space, deselect, click the edge of this shaft to center our next hole. Pick the surface. It centers it, and it remembers the last inputs. So we can just hit OK. Goes all the way through, as you can see. That's what we want. Okay, so the next step is to add the tabs. Okay, so we're going to add the tabs. And they're also not centered. All right, so let's go ahead and add the tabs. So we'll create a sketch. Okay, so I'm going to pick the top surface to create our sketch on. Sketch. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and project this edge. You know, we can do all four if we want. So I can hold on to the control key. Select only the edges, right? Not the surface, but the edges. And we can project. If you don't see project, we can always go to Insert, Operation, 3D, Project, and hit OK. Click and space to deselect. And I want you to notice, let me collapse these features. Our new sketch. Here's it created a geometric set for our new elements. Now I should have changed them to construction elements. Should have had construction on first. That's okay. Click and space to deselect. There they are. So we're just going to use it as a reference to create our tabs. Okay, so we're going to create these tabs with the radius of 0.75 and the distance from the edge to the center, edge to center, is 0.62. So it tells us there are 4 tabs, 4x, 4 tabs, with the center of it from the edge at 0.62. And we have radius of 0.75. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a tab. So I'm going to use the profile command. Actually, you know what? Actually, I'm going to show you a few ways of doing the tab. Let's first do the profile. I forgot to turn off construction. Let me turn this into blue. There it is. So we want solid lines. Okay, so I know it's supposed to be somewhere near the center, but not exactly. So I'm going to start up here somewhere. Click. Click. Tangent arc. Click. Click. Then I'm going to close it off. Click. Click and space. Alright, so notice I'm missing the horizontal on this one, so I'll add a horizontal constraint. Okay, good. And we have a distance, edge to center distance of 0.62. And we have a radius of 0.75, so that's at a dimensional constraint. So radius of 0.75. Okay. All right, so let's go back. Okay, so these two tabs are in line with each other. And these two tabs are in line with each other. They appear to be. So we're going to use 374. So I'm going to flip it over. Okay, so 374. We don't actually have to flip it over, but there it is, 3.74. Okay, so this one we can actually mirror. So I'm going to select. I'm going to left mouse click and hold from the opposite direction and select my sketch or my tab, as you can see, or you can select one at a time while holding onto the control key. and we're going to mirror it over. So here's mirror. Okay, so mirror. I'm going to mirror it about the vertical. There it is. Click and space to deselect. Let me flip this over. Alright, so now let's create the next tab. This time I'm going to use something different. This is probably my favorite command in Sketcher. I'm going to go to the rectangle. And I've already introduced you to the elongated hole command. It creates slots, but it also creates solids. So I'm going to click this one. Elongated hole. Make sure you have construction lines off. So I'm going to click here, click vertically, and click. Alright, so I'm going to click and space to deselect. So I'm going to double click on this. My radius is 0.75. The distance from the edge to the center, 0.62. Okay. And I need a distance from the edge. 350. Oh, my mistake. It's 677. So 6.77 from the edge to the center. So from the edge to the center, double click, 6.77. Okay. All right, now notice our tabs don't look the same. So I actually have to take this one and turn it into a construction element, which is fine. There it is. Click and space. It's not in our way, so we can just turn it into a construction element. But we do have to create a solid line going across. So let me first click and space to deselect, turn off construction, and let's draw a line going across. And click and space to deselect. Okay, there we have it. Okay, so now I'm going to left mouse click and hold so I can window capture this new tab. Then I'm going to mirror it about the horizontal. There it is. Click and space to deselect. Okay, now the only thing we're missing are the holes. Okay, so the hole diameters 0.53. So 4x, 4 holes. 0.53 is the diameter for the little holes. Okay, so let me zoom in. Go with hole command. Make sure you have construction turned off. Notice it's blue, so we're good. Make sure it's center with the arc. Add a dimensional constraint. It goes 0.52. Okay. And we can mirror that over to the bottom. So I can select that little hole and mirror it over about the horizontal. Okay, there it is. Now let's do the one on the left. So hole, click and space to deselect. So I'm going to hold the control key, select the two circles while holding onto the control key, make them equal, at a relationship of equal. Okay, click and space. Okay, now we can mirror this one over. Click that one and mirror it over about the vertical. Okay. Alright, so now let me click the normal. There it is, it straightens it out. Okay, so we should have a total of 8 profiles, one for each hole. So we have a profile, one per hole, and one per tab for a total of 8 profiles. So when we go to Tool Sketch Analysis, it'll show us a list of 8 profiles. Notice they're all closed. We're good. We can exit. And now we can do a pad. So let's see, what is that dimension? Here it is, 0.75. So the tabs, 4 of them, 4x, 4 of them, have a thickness of 0.75. So let's do a pad. It's going in the wrong direction. Hit reverse, and now we can type in 0.75 and OK. And there's our tabs. All right, so the one thing that we are missing are fillets. I'm going to go ahead and save this first. So let me go File, Save. So problem 4-4, I'll save it in my chapter 4 folder and save it. Okay, so it's been saved. All right, so I'm going to add fillets. Now here we have a note which says fillets and rounds are 0.12 in radii. Okay, so our radii 0.12 for all fillets and rounds. So notice these double lines. These double lines tells us that these are rounds. So we have fillets inside. Now typically you don't show fillets in your regular front view, side view, section views, auxiliary views, but you do typically show them in the isometric view that we see here on the right. Okay, so we have fillets here, fillets there. So we have fillets all over the place inside. All right, so, and these fillets are most likely created by the mold that this was created in. So just like making pancakes, it takes on the shape of the mold that shapes it. All right, so let's go ahead and add some fillets. All right, so I'm going to use the fillet command. So fillet. And we can pick the edge, right? Pick the edge. Make sure it's red. Picks the edges. When it's red, it's picking edges. And we're going to type in a fillet of 0.12 and preview and OK. Okay, so we have those fillets. Now they're all the same radii, so we can always go back and double click on our edge fillet feature, double click, and we can add more. So like, hey, I want to add this one. Notice there's a total of 5 elements. Here's our bag. So imagine you're trick-or-treating, picking edges to fillet. Here's our bag. You can always remove or replace. So you can always remove by deselecting. Okay, I'm going to close the bag. Okay, so pick that edge. I think we also had this edge. Don't remember, but go ahead and pick it. If you misclick, you can always deselect it. You can always click again to deselect. So if I accidentally clicked on this surface, what I didn't mean to, you can always deselect it, right? By clicking on it again. Pick the edge, pick the edge. Okay, edge, edge, and edge. And okay. Okay, so we did all the outer ones, I believe. Let's go back. So we did all the outer fillets. Oh, it looks like we have one at the base too. I missed the one at the bottom. Yeah, so see how this is round? Ooh, this is round too. Okay, so I need to add a few more. If you missed a fillet, it's okay. I'm not going to take points off. All right, so I'm going to double click on fillet. I'm going to click these edges. And I'm going to pick the rounds. Now it should, notice how it automatically recognizes tangency. So it defaults to tangent. So if you pick on an edge that happens to be tangent to the next piece of geometry, it'll continue on. So the dashes that look like construction lines is telling you, hey, you have the tangent option on, so it's going to fill it all the way until the tangency ends. Okay, so we already have that one. Notice it continues on with the tangency, or with the edges because of tangency. And okay, notice it fillets. It kept going till the tangency ended. Alright, so now let's do the inside. Let me go ahead and save this. I'm going to go File, Save. The reason I'm saving is because sometimes fillets have a mind of their own. Now we're doing very simple fillets on straight edges, but if you ever have to do a fillet on an edge that turns, twists, and divides, sometimes what CATIA's trying to do is trying to find the path of least resistance as it's creating a fillet on a complex edge. And sometimes it doesn't know which way to go and it may freeze up. So that's why I'm saving. But in our case, we're doing very simple fillets on straight edges. Okay, so now we're going to fillet the inside. So let's go back to, so I roll the wheel, rolling the wheel. So let's edge fillet. This time I'm going to pick the entire surface at the bottom of this box. So it's going to fill it all around the surface I chose. So by picking the surface, it goes all the way around. Hit OK. Notice how I went all the way around because I chose the surface, so it goes all the way around the periphery of the surface. I can always double click directly on the fillet to add more. Say, I want to add one here. Add one there. Here. So I'm just going to the ribs. Notice I accidentally picked the surface, so it wants to fillet everything. So let me deselect this surface. There it is. Edge, there it is. Okay, I'm missing this side. And okay. Notice all those fillets all in one shot. Okay, let me double check, make sure I didn't miss any. Yep, I missed the fillets at the top of the ribs and also the ones here at the ends. The inside end here of the rib on both sides and the ones on top. If you miss any fillets, it's okay. I'm not going to take points off. Okay, so let's double click on the fillet or any fillet and it'll take me back. Okay, so I got this one, that one. I can always pick the surface. Pick the surface. Okay, click and space to deselect, and there's all my fillets. I think I may need to fillet the inside edge. Pretty sure I do. Yep, missed this inside edge on all four corners. So double click on fillet again. Pick the inside edge, all four corners. And okay. Okay, I'm not sure if I missed any, but I'm all filleted out. Okay, so let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so if we missed a few fillets, it's okay. Alright, so I did want to show that the hole in the shafts, both holes go all the way through, as you can see. And it looks like we do have everything. If you typed in the wrong dimension, maybe I typed in a wrong dimension somewhere, it's okay. I'm not going to take points off for typing in the wrong dimension. If you ended up doing everything symmetrical, everything about a center line, that's okay. I'm not going to take any points off. I'm okay with it. Alright, so there's our part. Don't forget to save, file, save. So it saves it. Okay, that's the end of this video.